Hello, my name is Emma, and in today's video, we are going to talk about party English. So I will teach you some key words to help you when you go to different parties. So you'll learn a lot of great vocabulary from this lesson, and also some things about the culture of parties. So let's talk about people at the party. So the first person you should know about is the host. Host means the person who invites people or organizes the party or the event. So that person is the host. So here's an example sentence of this. Maria is the host of the party. Maria invited the people to the party and she organized the party. She is the host. It is Maria's party. Here's another example. I hosted the party. So what you'll notice is that host can be a noun, so a person. Maria is the host. It can also be a verb or an action. I hosted the party. So let's talk a little bit about culture, because parties are very cultural places. So at a party, usually the host greets the guest. This means they say things like, welcome to the party. Oh, hey, good to see you. So the first thing they do is they greet their guest, and they might say something like this, make yourself at home. So if this is a house party, the host might say, make yourself at home. This means be comfortable at this party. Treat this like your home. Make yourself at home. And I like that this is make. A lot of learners confuse do or make. In this case, we're using the word make. Make yourself at home means be comfortable here. So what are some other things the host does? The host offers the guest food or drinks. They might say, would you like something to drink? Can I get you a drink? So those are common questions a host will ask. Or if the guests can get the drink themselves, they'll say, oh, please help yourself. Help yourself to a drink. Another thing that the host does is they help to connect people. So they will introduce people to each other. They might say, oh, I want to introduce you to Brad. He also is in the same business as you. Or, oh, let me introduce you to Sue. She's my neighbor. I think you'll really get along. So the next word for a party is guest. The guest is the person who was invited to the party or event. So for example, maybe there's a wedding and there might be 100 guests or 200 guests to the wedding. Maybe you have a party and you invite 5 people. Those 5 people would be your guests. It's a hard word to say because of the STS. So when we're talking about guests, so sorry about my pronunciation, you'll notice that when a guest goes to the party, they'll have fun, they'll meet people, we call that mingling, they'll make some small talk, and then when they leave the party, they often say this, thanks for having me. So this is a common sentence the guest will say to the host when they go. They'll say, oh, thanks for having me. I had a great time. Or they might say, thanks for hosting. This was a great party. So if you ever hear the word having me, it's very common in party situations. It means thanks for letting me come to your party. So let's talk a little bit about culture. So guests often bring gifts to parties. So they might bring something like, depending on what country you're in, maybe some chocolate or some wine, or, it's customary to bring something small to a party. You don't always have to do it, but you'll notice culturally a lot of the times guests will bring something. Another thing to note is depending on your culture or your country of origin, there might be different expectations of when to arrive at a party and when to leave a party. So sometimes, guests might come right on time. Sometimes it's normal to come, 30 minutes late. Sometimes it might be an hour late, and it could be very cultural. So it's good to look at where you're from, and if you're living in an English-speaking country where it might be a different culture, it's good to know what are the expectations. How late do you stay at the party? And what time do you arrive at? Because that is very cultural. So there's different types of parties and different things that happen at parties. I think this is a great word to know, potluck. A potluck is a meal or a party where everyone brings food to share. So you bring enough food for the guests at the potluck. So one person might bring a salad. One person might bring a pie. One person might bring, like a main dish. So you have everybody bringing something, and then you share the food together. So this is very common in North America. So you might see them at a school, in workplaces, at a community group. So if somebody says, yeah, I'm having a party, it's a potluck, or the party is a potluck, you know it means you need to bring some food. So here's an example. I brought salad to a potluck. If somebody says there's a potluck, you can ask, what should I bring? It's good to know what everyone's bringing, so you can always ask, what should I bring to the potluck? And again, bring enough for everyone. So potluck is a word you might hear when we're talking about parties. Let's look at another party word you might hear. So there are different types of parties. A get-together is a very small, casual party where there might not be many people, and usually people know each other, so it's usually friends or family. So a casual meeting with friends or family, we can call that a get-together. And notice I put the word "a" in front. So get-together is a noun. So you could say, we had a small get-together this weekend. Or if I want to invite someone, I might say, hey, we're having a small get-together this weekend. Would you like to come? The reason I'm using the word get-together is I want to tell somebody the party is small. There's not going to be a lot of people there. And it's going to be casual, friendly, and very relaxed. So it's not a loud party. It's not a house party where there's tons of people dancing. A small get-together means a small group having a party. All right, so we talked about a get-together, which is usually a small, casual party with a few people. Now we have the word house party, which can mean different things. So the easiest definition is a house party is a party at someone's house. I can say, for example, they had a house party on Saturday. That meant that the party took place at someone's house. But culturally, there can be two different meanings, so you have to be careful. A house party can be a small, quiet gathering at somebody's house, or it can actually also mean a very loud party with lots of drinking and dancing, with music. Usually when younger people talk about a house party, they're talking about this one. But usually when older people talk about a house party, it's more likely to be this, but it can be both. So it's important to know when somebody says house party, it's if they're talking about this versus something small, because you can expect very different things. The next word is an interesting one because we use it a lot in English, but it's actually from a French sentence. The word is RSVP. It's a very important word in English, especially for parties. You will hear this word if people are talking about weddings, birthday parties they're having, or other types of events. You will often see this written on an invitation. So RSVP means that there is an invitation or a request, and you need to say if you are going to the party or not. So here's something you'll commonly see. Please RSVP by Friday. This means you have to let the host of the party know or the organizer know if you are coming by Friday. It means please respond. So here's a bit of a cultural note. RSVP is a word that actually comes from French. A lot of people who speak English don't know this. They do not know what RSVP stands for in French. The main thing is if you see the word RSVP, it means that you need to respond to an invite. And it's polite to respond. So it's, especially if you like the people, it's the polite thing to do is to let somebody know if you are coming or not to their party. So another word that can be helpful when you're talking about a party is the word dress code. So a dress code, you might think of the word dress when you see the word dress code, but dress also means like what to wear. So a dress code applies to both men and women. It just means what clothes are appropriate for the party. So maybe it's a very formal party, and so it's maybe what we would call a black tie event where people dress very, very elegantly and formally. You would find that out by the dress code. So dress code just means a question asking what clothes are appropriate for an event. Sometimes parties are very casual. You can wear anything you want. Other times they're very formal and you have to dress in a specific type of outfit or a specific type of attire. So if you ever don't know what to wear, you can ask, what's the dress code? What's the dress code for the wedding? What's the dress code for dinner? What's the dress code for the event? And then people will be able to tell you what kinds of things to wear or not. So here's a helpful phrase. What should I wear? Is there a dress code for this party? And, you know, it's really good to ask this question, especially if the party is a more formal party. So we've covered a lot today. We've talked about host, guest, RSVP. We've looked at a lot of different words. We've looked at some different types of parties. So these are all very common words we use when discussing parties. They're good to know. So the best way to remember something is to practice. I invite you to visit our website at www.ingvid.com, and there you can actually practice the words you learned today and take our quiz. You can also check out my YouTube channel. I have videos on all sorts of different topics related to English, including other videos on vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and so much more. So thank you again for watching. Until next time, take care.